All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon on back to school strategies. Then we'll also have a guide as well that we can go through. My name is Ken Tyrell. I'm an account executive on the platform team here at GroundTruth, and I will be your tour guide for today as we run through some strategies that we can deploy for the fall season with back to school shoppers. It's good to see the people that have joined us today. It looks like we have a few people that are current users of GroundTruth's platform. It looks like we have a good number of new folks as well. So welcome. I hope you all having a good afternoon. Goes without saying, hope all are safe and health, given these crazy times that we have going on right now. Certainly very interesting. So let's get started. A few housekeeping items as we run through our webinar for today. Everyone is going to be muted, just makes for a little bit more efficient use of our time. Pretty sure we're all, for the most part, still at home, and let's just stay muted. That'll help out. There'll be a recording of what we're doing today, and there'll also be a strategy guide that we'll send to everybody who's on our call. Questions. As we go along, I'm more of an interactive person than I am someone who's just going to like to drone on for periods of time. So if you have questions, feel free to click on the Q&A button that's on the bottom of the screen, or I guess maybe the top of the screen for some. Then ask your question as we go along. If I feel, I guess if it's something I want to kind of address immediately, then I'll certainly do that. For the most part, though, I think we'll try to leave the Q&A to the end of the webinar. I will certainly leave ample amount of time to go over everyone's question towards the end. If for some reason you have to hop off early, I get it. Self-serve help at groundtruth.com is a great spot to lob in a question or two. We'll get back to you immediately. For those of you that are obviously working with team members on our platform, feel free to reach out to them, and they'll be more than happy to get back with you shortly. Here's my agenda. I think I'm going to try to keep this to roughly 15 to 20 minutes. Since we have some new folks on the call, I'll go into GroundTruth a little bit, kind of who we are, what we do. Certainly want to talk about the problem that we see given the changing landscape, changes in consumer behavior as we prepare for the fall season. Talk a little bit about back to school planning. In that piece, I'll more than likely just go over what we saw last year, sort of the who, the what, the why, where, and then how we can implement strategies to be successful in our marketing the fall of this year. I'm going to touch on a couple things from a strategy perspective, how we can use location to connect where people are, and then some audiences that we've seen last year and we intend to see this year that will be an efficient use of our marketing dollars. For the new folks, I'll touch on Ads Manager. That's our self-serve platform. That's how we're going to reach these people. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a Q&A. Certainly ask whatever questions you have. There's also a poll at the end that if you're so willing, that you can click on. It'd be great. I think it's 4 questions, maybe 5. It just gives us some good feedback as to ways that we can better reach you, better serve the people, and do a better job, quite frankly, on webinars. You are stuck with me. This is my first one, so we will grind through this together. If you have questions as we go along, certainly feel free to ask. For those of you that don't know, GroundTruth was founded in 2009, which makes us the oldest location platform out there. Even though 2009 doesn't seem like it's that long ago, it certainly is an eternity in this particular space. And we continue to grow with 360 employees. We're a $100 million revenue company. We have technology in 21 countries. We have 22 technology patents. We are the #1 global location buying platform out there. and we are happy that you are joining us today. So for those of you that don't know who and what is GroundTruth, we are a mobile location technology company. And what we do is we use location data to help businesses think smarter. What does that mean? That means we pay attention to where people go in the offline world. And in doing so, we can build insights into consumer behavior. We certainly can then better understand consumer trends. And then as it sort of fits our little chat today, we can serve relevant media to appropriate audiences based on where they are and where they have been. All right, so this is what I'd like to chat with on the webinar today is how do we plan for the back to school season this fall, given the changes in consumer trends? So here's what we see, here's what we hear. And I think a lot of you probably hear and see the same thing, which is, what strategies can we use to ensure we don't waste money? Are we sticking with offline tendencies? Are we moving more to online? What's the consumer doing? As we take a look at maybe more people staying at home, more and more people being a little more judicious as they move around, where's the best way to reach the audiences that we're looking to reach? Obviously, concern number two that pops up a lot, what can we use to make sure we don't miss out on opportunities? We want to target the right people, right? We want to target at the right time and at the right place. So as we take a look at what happened last year, and we can use that to get some insight as to what we think is going to happen this year. I think we have ways that we can answer these, and in a very, very efficient and strategic way. All right, let's take a look at last year, why this is important. Believe it or not, it's an $80.7 billion opportunity. That was the total combined planning spending last year for back to school, including colleges. Boils down to roughly $700 is the average planned spending per household for back to school shoppers in 2019. And we see no reason why that's going to be any different this year. In fact, given the change of the landscape and the shopping behaviors, that probably could be a potentially larger number this year. But all in all, it's a very large market, and it's very important that we take a closer look at it to how we can market to this particular space. Who are we marketing to? As I mentioned earlier, GroundTruth uses location technology so we can get an understanding of consumer behavior and trends. If we take a look at last year, these are the audiences that we have seen with the largest increase in foot traffic to retailers during that back to school timeframe. And we define that back to school timeframe roughly from June 16th to September, the end of September. And here are some audiences that you can see some significant patterns with. Children's store shoppers, moms, right? School staff up large, 48%, department store shoppers, millennial parents, etc. Most of us, I think, on this call would think this is pretty obvious, right? Because these type of behaviors or these of audiences are certainly going to be the ones that spend more time with back to school shopping. But the important thing is we can identify who these particular behaviors are, who these particular mobile users are. And that gives us an opportunity to be more specific and more precise with our marketing. A couple other things that we want to make a note of. 34.8% of parents say that at least half of their back to school purchases are influenced by their children, which is beneficial if we take it last year, because we can apply that to this year and understand foot traffic behaviors to certain brands or certain locations that seem to be growing in popularity with the younger folks. So I think the who, very important in terms of how we decide who we're going to market to. All right, when should we do it? This is going to be a remarkably challenging slide for you to see. It will be in the strategy guide that we send out at the end. But here's a few important data, pieces of data that I think we should know. Like July is obviously the prime time to start running campaigns to drive pre-shop awareness. If you take a look at this, this is going to show the foot traffic trends from the beginning of July to the end of August of last year. And you can see that visitation spikes during the weekends in August. We kind of know that, right? For those that, I mean, this is a tough slide to see. What we're identifying here are big box shoppers, office stores, electronics, apparel, accessories, department stores, footwear, kids, et cetera, et cetera. I think the important thing here is to understand that while it kicks off in early, the largest segment of budgets, about 9.5 billion, is spent during the first 2 weeks of August. Our inclination is to assume that this line graph is probably going to shift to the left a little bit for this coming season. The reason being is everyone's behavior with sort of the online shopping, the eagerness to make sure that we have supplies to make, for our children, whether or not they go to school or they're being homeschooled. So I would anticipate a shifting up to the left of this particular line graph as you plan for how you're going to reach people at the right time going into the fall. All right, let's take a look at where people are going. The biggest chunk of the back to school market is in clothing and accessories. You probably, most of us probably know that. Hardware, school supplies, and electronics make up the balance of the rest. But I thought I would include some interesting facts. Some apparel and footwear retailers saw as much as an 18% increase in foot traffic during August compared to the total summer period. Target saw an over 10% increase in visitation in August of 19 compared to July and September months. Saturdays in August proved to be the busiest day for Walmart stores with a 15% increase to foot traffic on those days compared to the average. And foot traffic in electronic stores like Apple, Best Buy was up 14% on Saturdays in August than in Saturdays in July. One of the interesting things to note is when it comes to electronics, we also have seen a shift from brick and mortar to more online stuff, which I think is probably a trend that's going to continue into the fall. So I think you'll probably see, I'm obviously stating a little bit of the obvious here, but you're going to see movement more online and then you probably would with foot traffic, given the fact that who knows what the reopening of the country is going to look like from, it's week to week now rather than month to month. But this will give you an understanding of where the dollars are spent. All right, how are we going to do this? Adults, on average, spend about 4 hours a day consuming media on their daily devices, on their mobile devices. Last year, 42% of US parents planned to use their smartphones for back to school related shopping. And historically, the majority, 62% of back to school clothing and school supplies have been purchased in store. While I touched on this a few seconds ago, while electronic related purchases tend to skew more towards digital, I think everything is going to skew more towards digital. I think we're kind of all in agreement there. As consumer shopping habits start to change a little bit. So if we know that they spend 4.5 hours of time on their phone, and there's a significant appetite to use their smartphones for their shopping, that's going to lead us to what strategies or what can we do to take advantage of knowing those trends. So here's some recommended solutions that I want to run through. Obviously, the obvious. Let's connect where consumers are. They're on their phones, right? More and more every day, and doing more and more things. I just mentioned this earlier. 4 hours of consuming media, right? 42% of parents plan to use their smartphone for related shopping. What that means to me is let's make sure that our brands stay on top of mind. Let's connect with the relevant audiences in the right moments. We can leverage location, ranging from real-time targeting efforts to audience behaviors, etc. And here's a few ways and a few strategies or tactics I think we can start to use, right? We can take a look at audiences. For those of you that are somewhat unfamiliar with GroundTruth and how we use our technology, I'll get to that in a few minutes. But here are some audience targeting tactics we can use, right? We can take a look at building location audiences, right? These are people who have recently visited a brand or a category, right? Start to think about things like Five Below, Office Depot, Walmart, Target, etc. And we can use where people go to build these location audiences. We can also take a look at, different behaviors. People who, based on real world visitation behavior, are grouped into certain audience segments. So when we talk about let's making sure we're efficient with our ad spend and our dollars, we can build certain audiences like moms, children's store shoppers, millennial parents, school staff. That was the list I showed you on the earlier slide. But you can build those audiences and be a little bit more precise with your targeting. Next, you can build custom audiences. This is a little bit of GroundTruth's secret sauce, right? You can go in and we can build audience segments based on key parameters and demographic data essential specifically to you. So think about it this way: you can create a custom audience based on key markers like, hey, I want to target moms who recently visited a Target store and then were observed going to another POI. So as you take a look at the fall and you take a look at trends, we can certainly build these audiences for you. And it's a much more efficient use of ad spend, and it eliminates waste. In addition to audiences, we can also take a look at different location targeting tactics, right? We can take a look at, for example, on-premise targeting. That's our targeting that we use our custom polygons with. We call it blueprinting. And you can take a look at using on-premise targeting to incentivize people in real time who happen to be close to a location that means something to you. And you can seduce them in that particular location to come visit your brand's location. We also have a technology we call neighborhood targeting. And this focuses on areas that have a high affinity for shopping to a specific location. Think of this as GroundTruth's own geo-created neighborhoods. So we can take a look at certain past behaviors, and we can identify where people have gone and have a certain affinity to go to a brand or a location. Then we can build audiences that seem to have that same affinity. Of course, we can use location to target your competitors, right? We can take a look at understanding what your competitive set is. We can target them, and we can either grab location, people that are there real time, or audiences that frequent there. And the last one, which could, in some scenarios, be the most powerful tactic, is we can use first-party CRM data. So we can add real-world visitation layer to your existing audiences, right? And we can significantly amplify, your customer data, which ultimately is going to lead to an increase in effectiveness of how you're targeting your potential clients. All right, item number next. I want to chat about Ads Manager. And this is how you would use our platform. All right, we want to reach people based on where they are and where they have been using our technologies. The way that we go about targeting those people is with our platform we call Ads Manager. We target by location, as I mentioned earlier. We can target by audience, and we also can target by weather. So when you start to set up your campaigns, we can take a look at real-time targeting. This will give you a little insight into how our technology works. So let's say someone is in a store, in a parking lot, in a retail block. Maybe they're in close proximity. Maybe they're a certain radial, or maybe even further out. And maybe they're in a neighborhood that I talked about earlier has an affinity to a particular store. We can use that location behavior to serve an ad real time to their mobile device. And then your ad would pop up right here. In addition to taking a look at real-time targeting, as I mentioned earlier, we can use audience targeting. We can reach people based on where they have been. How our technology works is simple. Let's say they're at a department store. We grab that visitation data. We know that they're either a loyalist or a visitor, etc. Then they matriculate out into other parts of the town or city, etc. Then we can track them down, know that they were at a specific location. We've built that audience, and we can serve an ad to their mobile device. And that's how we use our audience targeting. All of this is very simple to use on our Ads Manager platform. So when you take a look at whatever audiences you want to set up. You can set the targeting, select that audience and what tactic you want to use to reach the right customers. All you need to do is then add the message that you want to send to them. It's either a banner ad or a video or whatever you'd like to send to their mobile device. Then just launch the campaign, and then you can measure results. One thing that we always like to add about the GroundTruth platform is we can increase transparency into the value of your ads, especially if we're measuring visits to offline locations. We can measure that return on ad spend with attribution based on those real visits. We can also see the impact of your ads, and we can also gain insight with our real-time reporting. And we can use that to obviously change and edit and improve your current campaigns. And we can also use that when we set up future campaigns. And that brings me to the end of our webinar for today. I'm going to include at the end of the session this back to school strategy guide, which will cover most of the stuff that I chatted with today. So you can expect this to be sent to you. If you have any questions or concerns that we can address, I'm certainly willing to address those right now. Also, you can certainly, when we go back to the first slide, send an email to us at GroundTruth, self-serve hub at GroundTruth. We'll happy to answer those as well. And then I would also, if you are still with us, click on that polling and give us some feedback. Like I said, this is the first one that I've done. So certainly any feedback would be great as I continue to do some of these webinars in the future. In the meantime, let me take a look at some questions. Any suggestions on reaching the transient population that returns to campuses? The new movers, audience targeted to college cities. I'm working with some blah, blah, blah. Want to do. Yeah, so that has come up in the past. And thank you for asking that question. Yeah, so we certainly can target colleges and universities. Another tactic that I've seen utilized successfully in the past is furniture stores as well, in terms of understanding, visitation increases, obviously for that type of consumer as it gets closer and closer to, the school season. So we certainly can target colleges and universities. We have those audiences. Obviously, we can further segment those. And then we can also target furniture stores or, similar like locations. I think that would help out a lot. Do you think schools are going to be open by August based on your data? Great question. Don't know. Don't know the answer to that one. Everything that we show is going to be literally locality by locality instead of, county by county instead of state by state. So I think that one is a question better asked someone smarter than me. How can your services be useful to promote websites and services? Certainly take a look at our audiences that we have. Different carriers, different type of users of online sites. That would be an audience that you can take a look at utilizing. When we build our audiences based on certain behaviors, certain categories, or certain brands. So not exactly sure what the website is promoting, but you can certainly take a look at certain behaviors, certain categories or brands that would help. Small to mid-sized businesses is a category I know that we have that's audience size of just under 1 million. People, that would be great. It would seem to me to promote your website and services. Let's see if we have any other questions that are popping through. Do we have a case study for furniture stores? Absolutely. I will send that to you. If you are currently working with our team, reach out to your platform specialist or your account executive. If not, I will grab your email and I will shoot you a case study for furniture stores. All right. How can we get more familiar with your audiences? Simple. We have an audience deck that we can distribute that talks about different brands, different categories, different behaviors that we currently have. So again, reach out to us, and we're more than happy to send you that our audience segments. All right, make a case study that is current with COVID. Yeah, go onto our website. We have a foot tracker platform that we're using right now that is paying very close attention to foot traffic with the COVID-19 outbreak that has happened. So if you go to our website, GroundTruth.com, scroll through, and you can take a look at our foot traffic monitor, and that'll give you good insight as to what's going on with the changing consumer landscape based on the COVID-19. Great, got your email address. I'll send that along to you. Any other questions that I can help out with today? All right, I will hang on the line for a few more minutes just to see if any more questions pop up. If so, I'm happy to answer them. For those of you that have joined us that need to jump, thankful that you were able to make it today. Hopefully some of it was helpful. Any other questions, reach out to a GroundTruth team member, or certainly reach out to the email that we mentioned before. All right, all, thanks for joining us. I am going to end the webinar. Wish you all safe and healthy, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.